Chapter 11, The Ill Fortunes of the Grand Dukes. This chapter is titled The Ill Fortunes of the Grand Dukes. Seeing how King Zhou was to put Zhang Huanshu to death so blatantly, the other three Grand Dukes knelt before the king in shock and told the latter to reconsider his decision in the name of preserving his king-minister relationship. As bygones spread forth their petition upon King Zhou's desk, he had little choice but to read it. Upon the reading of this petition, which elaborated the king's many wrongs, the latter flew into a great rage while tearing it to many pieces. Once the three dukes had been bounded immediately for such a slanderous petition, Yellow Flying Tiger and other princes knelt down and elaborated the grand duty and loyalty that the dukes fully showed throughout their many merits towards the name of the Shang Dynasty. After hearing their story, King Zhou came to a new conclusion: Chang will be specially pardoned for his exceeded virtue and due loyalty, while the other two dukes are to be executed at once as previously stated. Even with Yang Ren's continued plea to have mercy on the two remaining dukes, the king's decree was effectively carried out in efficient form nonetheless. Following King Zhou's return to his palace, each minister wept profusely at such a tragedy, while the remaining attendants of the two newly deceased dukes fled immediately to their respective dukedoms in a chance to attain a future rebellion. As two grand dukes were thus buried in Chang made preparations to head back to his dukedom, Fei Zhong approached King Zhou and suggested to him that Chang should effectively be destroyed lest he attempts to join forces with either Jiang Wenhuan of the east or Yi Shun in the south, the sons of the deceased dukes, due to his secret inner treachery. By observing the former during his farewell feast, Fei Zhong could effectively determine if he was truly loyal to the dynasty, for if he seems the least bit treacherous, he should be disposed of immediately. As Chang thus presented his farewell to the king and prime minister bygone, he rode to the Changting pavilion, where he was warmly welcomed by many high-ranked ministers, with happiness and due dignity present within each minister's heart. Chang was merrily treated to volleys of wine in a celebratory feast. Once both Fei Zhong and Yu Han arrived shortly, each minister became displeased and dispersed immediately at the sight of such criminals in their presence. With Chang now alone with Fei Zhong and Yu Han, the latter presented forth an especially large jug of wine equipped with extra large cups for the former to drink from. As Chang thus happily guzzled down several glasses and became somewhat drunk, Fei Zhong purposely asked the former the fate of the Shang Dynasty. After stating that King Zhou would be the last monarch of the dynasty, and his rule will last for another decade or so, Chang additionally foretold the rather strange death that Fei Zhong and Yu Han will experience in the future. They will be frozen to death in ice. With expressive condolences towards Chang's prophecies, Fei Zhong and Yu Han shortly returned to the Fairy Longevity Palace to tell the king how truly foul the duke was. As Chao Tian, one of the Chao twins, was thus deployed to bring back Chang immediately by decree of King Zhou, Chao Tian arrived shortly before Chang and rode back to the capital. Once Chang was presented before King Zhou and received the death punishment, Bygone defended the former, saying that divination is simply meant to predict the success or failure of future events, and was most definitely not invented by Chang or used for the sole purpose to create his own rash predictions whatsoever. After thus being forced to make a divination to see if it will come true, Chang stated that the ancestral temple shall burn to ashes at noon the following day. With such a prophecy being reciprocated in real form, King Zhou flew back in astonishment at Chang's sage-like qualities. However, it was concluded that Chang will escape the death punishment, but will be forced to live within Morning Song's Yali district as to ensure no future trouble is caused through such divination. Once peace is to be restored in the capital, Ji Chang would be freed from such containment. Bowing in gratitude towards the king's grace, Ji Chang was welcomed merrily into Yaoli as a leader of the people who possessed voidful hate towards King Zhou. One day into the future, Prince Yellow Flying Tiger received a report that Jiang Wanhuan of the south is attacking Yuhan Pass, while Li Shun is present at Sanshan. Now being fully rational over the rebellion of 400 marquises at present, he sighed with discontent before ordering his generals to protect the passes with all due haste. Chapter 12, The Birth of Neza. This chapter is titled The Birth of Neza. Present at Chentang Pass was none other than the renowned military commander Li Jing, who possessed the rare ability to travel through ground, metal, wood, or fire as taught by superior man. Woe evading sage. Currently with 2 sons, Muza and Jinjai and his wife. Madam Yin, Li Jing was in a strange situation. His wife was seemingly pregnant for over 3 years and 6 months but never progressed into labor. However, as Yin had a strange dream one night, she suddenly gave birth to this strange child the following morning, with maidens rushing about saying that a demon was present in Yin's chambers. Li Jing immediately rushed forth into her room and cleaved into a strange fleshy ball that rolled to and fro across the floor. Within the ball emerged a small young child with hair as white as snow, with a gleaming golden bracelet on his right wrist. Taking the young child into his arms, Li Jing and his wife were both very delighted at the sight of their new son. As Fairy Primordial arrived shortly, and was happily welcomed into their territory, the former took hold of the child and declared his name to be Neza. After containing consent that Primordial could adopt the child as his own disciple, Li Jing continued to train his soldiers fervently throughout the following 7 years of time. As Neza ventured outside of the pass one day with a guard after his 7-year nurturing under Fairy Primordial, Neza arrived before the 9-bed river which sparkled with the light of the sun. Determined to take a bath in this stream as an escape from the great heat of summer, Neza immediately took his clothes off and used the sky-buttling damask around his neck to wipe his body. Little did he know that each time this scarf touched the water the surface turned red. When it swished about, the ground beneath shook violently. Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the East Sea, thus ordered his Yaksha scout, Li Gong, to find out the cause to each consistent tremors. After realizing Neza to be the source of such tremors, Li Gong lashed his axe violently at the former in great rage, but only ended up losing his life shortly by Neza's universal ring. As Ao Guang was informed of his scout's death, Ao Bing eased his father with word that he will find out the reason for such an action. Experiencing great ridicule and arrogance upon the meeting of Neza, third Prince Ao Bing lashed his Jaden lance forthward with great renown. Using both of his legendary items with synchronized ability, Neza managed to strike the former dead, who thus returned to his original form, a silver dragon. Being informed by Ao Bing's soldiers that his third son lost his life in addition, Ao Guang's rage pierced the very skies as he transformed himself into a scholar to immediately see Li Jing on the issue. After angrily elaborating the issue to Li Jing, Ao Guang demanded to see Neza in person without any moment to waste. When Neza appeared before Ao Guang unapologetically handed him his third son's tendon that was previously ripped out, the former flew into greater discontent, declaring fully that he would personally see the Jade Emperor to ensure their punishment. Feeling fully responsible for the great agony and frustration that his mother and father were now going through, Neza declared that we'll see his master fairy primordial, to see how he should deal with Ao Guan to ensure his family's safety. Using a dust cloud to move with great speed through the air, Neza arrived shortly before his master's residence at Qianyuan Mountain. Knowing fully that the minor actions of the past were destined to occur, and such a matter was not worthy to be placed before the Jade Emperor himself, Fairy Primordial first drew invisibility charms on Neza and then sent him to the Virtue Gate of the Heavenly Palace with his set instructions. Arriving in moderate time before the Virtue Gate, Neza gazed in great admiration at the beauty and elegance that revolved around him. Such a sight truly was far too great to ever be present within Earth. As Ao Guang eventually arrived through the gate, he rode swiftly towards the South Heavenly Gate, determined indeed to see the Jade Emperor at once. Realizing that such a gate was yet closed, a large pain suddenly erupted forth in his back as Neza's universal ring landed a crucial blow to the former. Falling to the ground with Neza grabbing hold of his neck, Ao Guang was truly in a difficult situation. Chapter 13, Combat Between Two Fairies. This chapter is titled Combat Between Two Fairies. As Neza toppled about the Dragon King and began beating him violently with his fist, the latter became even more infuriated. Determined to force Ao Guan to give up and return with him to the Chuntang Pass, Neza tore apart each individual scale upon his sides, effectively forcing the king to give in to such detriment. After Ao Guang had been ordered to take the form of a small lizard lest he attempted to escape, Neza returned immediately to Chuntang Pass in mere moments. Upon his return, before Li Jing, Ao Guang resumed his original form, stamped his foot in unparalleled rage, and vowed to gather the Dragon Kings of each of the four seas in his next attempt to see the Jade Emperor. With Li Jing in a state of rejuvenated frustration, Neza effectively calmed his father down by stating that he was decreed existence upon the red dust by the Jade Emptiness Palace, and if any trouble were to be presented before the Jade Emperor in the future, his master, Fairy Primordial, would take care of the situation with precise accuracy. As Neza thus calmly walked off to his parents' garden after placing confidence in his father, he soon became rather bored and decided to climb the neighboring pass's watchtower to enjoy the afternoon breeze. After gazing forth at the great view before him, Neza picked up a bow equipped with a set of 3 arrows that sat at the edge of this large tower. Deciding to better his archery technique, he shot one of 3 arrows, which glistened with brilliant crimson, into the southwest. Little did Neza truly realize that this bow was wielded by none other than Emperor Xianyuan within the past, for only one of immortal ability could have the strength to wield it. With even greater misfortune, this arrow happened to pierce the throat of Blue Cloud Lad of White Bone Cave on Skeleton Mountain. As such an incident was immediately informed to Lady Rock, the mistress of the cave, the latter vowed to attain revenge against the conjectured criminal of such an incident, Li Jing. Following Lady Rock's immediate arrival before Chuntang Pass, she wrapped up Li Jing with her yellow-scarfed genie without a moment of hesitation. After thus returning to her mountain with the latter, Li Jing told Lady Rock that he would immediately find out who the true murderer was upon his inspection of the sacred arrow. As Li Jing called for Neza and shortly realized that he was indeed the criminal behind this new incident, the former led Neza to Skeleton Mountain atop a dust cloud. Once Pretty Cloud Lad, the secondary disciple under Lady Rock, approached Neza to call him into the cavern. Neza determined this to be the perfect chance to knock the former out cold due to the calamity that shall befall him in very short time anyways. Seeing her disciple near death on the ground, Lady Rock began to lash her sword at the latter in even greater rage. Unfortunately for Neza, his legendary items were absorbed into the former's sleeves with ease when he attempted to unleash them, and he thus had no choice but to flee immediately to his master at Shenyuan Mountain. Hiding in the peach garden immediately upon his arrival, Fairy Primordial left his domain to confront Lady Rock as she pursued the former. After yelling profusely at Fairy Primordial in her desire to confront Neza, the latter retorted by saying that Neza is destined to perform such calamities, and such an incident is only minor and of no real significance compared to his true future performance. Realizing that his words were unfultured, and her only method to get past his resolve would be to approach his master at the Jade Emptiness Palace, the former decided to duel Fairy Primordial to prove her skill as being greater. Even with her magical item the Dragon Beard Handkerchief, she proved inferior as the latter evaded and negated her every blow like the flow of water, thus trapping her easily inside his Grade 9 Dragon Divine Fire Coverlet. Fairy Primordial glanced down at Neza, who peered outside the cave to head immediately to his family's residence due to the Jade Emperor's condescension of Ao Guang's request, thus telling Neza what he should do during his arrival. Fairy Primordial clapped his hands to put the irrational Lady Rock to her rest in a pit of flames. Approaching the 4 Dragon Kings, who arrived shortly at his house, Neza began to break his bones, gouge out his intestines, and slit his belly as a representation of the punishment that he deserves and the innocence that is deserving of his parents. Seeing Neza dead in a large pool of blood, Ao Guang and the other Dragon Kings consented to his sacrifice and declared his parents as innocent and free of any form of punishment. Chapter 14, Reincarnation with Lotus Flowers. This chapter is titled Reincarnation with Lotus Flowers. As the soul of Neza appeared before Fairy Primordial recently after the former's death, the latter told Neza to approach his mother in a dream and tell her to construct a temple on Jade Screen Mountain that is to be worshipped with incense and candles for over 3 years of time. Following the 3 years, Neza will be able to reincarnate into his original human form once again, thus continuously pleading to his mother for the construction of his temple so that he could rest in peace. She finally ordered her attendants to do as such, resulting in the temple's completion following the passage of 10 months, as Li Jing was naturally not informed of such a construction lest he attempted to tear it down in the future. Many people soon gathered to worship before the beautifully articulated temple due to the seemingly good fortune that resulted in such worship. Descending one day from the Wild Horse Mountain after thoroughly drilling his troops, Li Jing noticed many individuals gathering around a neighboring temple that was supposedly dedicated to God Neza. Burning the temple down shortly and calming the people with the truth, Li Jing returned immediately to see his wife and reprimand her for such one-sided thinking. As Neza heard what happened through his temple secretaries, he headed to see his master at Shenyuan Mountain to explain the current situation. Realizing that Neza is to be reincarnated as soon as possible without a single moment of delay, Fairy Primordial ordered his attendant, Golden Haze Lad, to retrieve 2 lotus flowers and 3 lotus leaves from the lotus pond immediately, performing a special process with his lotus leaves and flowers. Shortly after being received, Neza suddenly leapt forth in a new human body without the slightest defect following a puff of smoke. Bowing in unparalleled gratitude before his master, Neza was trained immediately with the fire-tip lance combined with his new windfire wheels, and ended up mastering such an art in very short time. Before leaving Shenyuan to attain revenge against Li Jing, Fairy Primordial handed the former his original legendary items after being retrieved off of Lady Rock's corpse, along with a golden brick that could change its mass at the user's will. Riding upon his flaming wheels with quick pace and arriving before Li Jing's residence shortly, several guards reported the former's arrival, and Li Jing had little choice but to see if what they said was really true. Appearing before Neza in great shock due to his miraculous return, Li Jing slashed his lance upon the former, but only ended up fleeing to the southeast after experiencing the celestial renown that Neza now possessed. Pursuing the latter with great ease with his windfire wheels, Li Jing knew that his life was to end shortly and thus fled for his life at the fastest speed he could muster. As Li Jing happened to fortunately run into his second son, Muza, along the way, he immediately explained the situation with quick words while hiding behind the former. Appearing before Muza, Neza soon learned that the person standing before him was his second brother, and he thus told the latter his reason for such an action. Without any hesitation for sympathy on Neza's part due to unfilialness, Muza lashed his sword forth at the former, but only ended up being knocked in the stomach by Neza's golden brick after leaving an opening, falling to the ground in moderate unconsciousness after receiving such a heavy blow. Neza seized this chance to pursue Li Jing further in his amusement, resolved that he would only end up with further calamity if such shamefulness continued. Li Jing prostrated himself on the ground in preparation for his ritual suicide. Just before such could be performed, Master of Outstanding Culture suddenly appeared to stop the former with immediate pace. With a large revolving lotus within his palm, the Taoist immediately ordered Li Jing to hide in his neighboring cavern while he personally confronts the pursuer. As Neza thus arrived before Master of Outstanding Culture and realized that the former was hiding Li Jing in his cave, Neza boasted that he would slash him to pieces with his lance if he were to continue to shelter his father without understanding the true situation at hand. After telling Master of Outstanding Culture his name and the respective master that he is trained under, Neza began to lunge forward at the Taoist master, knowing it probably wasn't the best choice, immediately parrying Neza's lance with the lotus flower within his palm. Master of Outstanding Culture unleashed forth his renowned dragon-bound stake, effectively placing the former's mind into great confusion and thus resulting in easy capture. As Neza shortly realized that he was completely bound to a golden stake with rings around his arms and legs, Master of Outstanding Culture ordered his disciple, Jinjia, to beat him with his cane as punishment. After they both returned to their cave after giving Neza a long and severe beating, Fairy Primordial arrived from the skies to meet with Master of Outstanding Culture, walking into the Taoist's cave while ignoring Neza's pleas completely. The former declared to Outstanding Culture that he sent him here for the sole purpose of temperament. With Neza thus being set free shortly, he kneeled with dignity before his master within the cavern. As Li Jing was reprimanded for the cruelty of burning down Neza's sacrificial temple, he was soon dismissed but ordered to show no further animosity towards Neza from this point on, and vice versa, with Neza thus being ordered to keep watch of the cave entrance while the two superior men played a round of chess. The former could not contain himself and left to pursue Li Jing immediately atop his flaming wheels. Believing to be fooled completely by the previous immortal due to Neza's refreshed pursuit, Li Jing fortunately caught sight of a man sitting on the side of a pine tree and thus called to the latter for assistance. Running up to the man and hiding behind him, Neza arrived shortly and explained the situation to this man, determined to vent his hatred. Giving in to Neza's furiosity, the man spat on Li Jing and then clapped his hand to the former's back. as Li Jing was ordered by this man to fight back Neza with little other choice. Neza soon realized that his father's strength was far greater than originally, and thus the man standing at the pine tree must be none other than a Taoist who was a master at the enhancement arts. Realizing that if he effectively destroyed the Taoist, his father's strength would not be surpassing his own. Neza lunged forward and slashed his lance into the latter's forehead. As a lotus flower appeared before his face to negate Neza's blow, the Taoist angrily unleashed forth his great golden pagoda from the skies to trap the former within. As punishment, clapping his hands to additionally signal a great fire to rage within the pagoda, Neza had no choice but to beg for mercy and declare his acknowledgement to his father, thus seizing the chance of being set free. Realizing that he possessed not a single burn from the Taoist's great fire, Neza deduced the former's ability to be none other than genjutsu, threatening to burn Neza further in his pagoda if he did not kowtow to his father with needed respect. The former had no choice but to do so in a rageful state. As the Taoist thus declared to Li Jing that he will teach him the burning pagoda art as a resistance against Neza's potential future assaults, Neza would be dismissed first and thus quickly rode back to Qianyuan Mountain in disappointment over his sullied vengeance, now declaring his name to be Burning Lamp of Mount Divine Hawk. The former told Li Jing to forget about fame and riches under the Shang Dynasty and to live as a hermit in the neighboring mountain valleys until the preordained assault upon the dynasty comes his way. At that time he should assist King Wu in the campaign. Chapter 15, Zhang Zia leaves Mount Kunlun. This chapter is titled Zhang Zia leaves Mount Kunlun. Living within the Jade Emptiness Palace on Mount Kunlun, heavenly primogenitor was honored as Grand Master of Chan Taoism. Through a past meeting between the heads of Chan and Jie Taoism and Confucianism, 365 gods would be chosen in the future as to represent the constellations, stars, sacred mountains, clouds, and the such. Such a creation served as to set each individual who died for their respective cause in the future war between the Shang Dynasty and the coming Zhou, to be reborn as a guardian of the red dust to ensure their individual resolve lives throughout the stars. After the Shang Dynasty falls, Zhang Zia is destined to be the chooser of such an outcome. As heavenly primogenitor thus ascended his eight treasure and cloud radiance throne one day and asked for Zhang Zia to appear before him. The latter knelt with great dignity towards his master for over 40 years of valued service, telling Zhang Zia immediately his destined assistance to the sage king in his service as commander and prime minister in the name of the future Zhou dynasty. The latter became rather discomforted over such a sudden statement and desired to stay by his master for eternity instead. With little other choice than to obey his master's declaration, Zhang Zia received a prophecy from primogeniture before taking his leave of the mountain with tears flowing from his eyes. Realizing his blatant confusion as to where he should start in his journey, he decided to head immediately to Song village to see his sworn brother, Song Aaron. Arriving at the latter's residence shortly and offering his condolences, the two sworn brothers sat beside each other with cups of fine wine. After discussing with Zhang Zia various events and other incidents, Song decided that his old friend is in need of a wife so that his family line could continue on, and thus the latter left to see Ma Hong to set up a future engagement with his daughter. Returning later to tell Zhang Zia his success, the two prepared for an auspicious day in which such a marriage could take place. Following the shortly arrived marriage with Madame Ma, the two lived for some time under the support of Song Aaron, who was exceedingly rich and possessed high status within the community. As Zhang Zia began to make bamboo rakes as a form of business at capital Morning song lest anything were to happen with Iran's support within the future. He unfortunately was not able to even sell a single rake and thus returned to his original residence with great misery and frustration in short time. After retaining suggestion from Iran that flour made from ground wheat would result in much better sale within the capital, Xianxia carried the flour to Morning Song the following day in great confidence. However, disaster only became greater as Xianxia was tackled furiously by a horse raging from Morning Song's drilling ground, resulting in flour spilling in every direction. Returning to his residence without a single cent made from the flour, Xianxia began to violently quarrel with his wife over such ill fortune experienced in the past. As Iran took his old friend aside to comfort him over his bad luck, the former declared to Xianxia that he could work as an accountant or shopkeeper daily in one of 50 restaurants that he possesses within Morning Song. With immense gratitude over his brother's suggestion, Xianxia assigned himself to a large restaurant that neighbored the southern gate of Morning Song, the busiest section within the city region. Unfortunately, however, every individual present within the city remained indoors due to a terrible rainstorm that ran amok throughout the entire day. Without ever retaining a single customer, Xianxia forced his staff to devour all prepared food lest it were to spoil over their terrible luck. As his sworn brother followed by handing Xia a few taels of silver to buy and sell livestock within the capital, the latter did as he advised and thus spent several days buying sheep and pigs for further profit. Driving a great number of animals to the marketplace at Morning Song the next day, Xianxia hardly realized that slaughtering livestock was strictly prohibited lest heaven became angry and expanded the capital's days of drought, with guards thus running at the former for his intentions to make profit from the slaughterhouses. Xianxia had no choice but to flee for his life while abandoning his animals. Following his return back to Song Iran, the latter simply smiled while declaring to Xianxia that they should both head to the back garden and drink away their past sorrows. Chapter 16, Burning the Jade Loot. Spectre. This chapter is titled Burning the Jade Loot Spectre. Entering the back garden. Shortly, and gazing forth with keen delight at the beauty around him, Xianxia suggested to Song Iran that a tower should be constructed within its vacant spaces to ensure great fortune with geomancy. After being told by the latter that such an action was constantly performed in the past, but the tower mysteriously burned down each consecutive time, Xianxia realized that spirits must have been at work previously, as the tower's beams were thus risen during the auspicious day ensured of success by Xia. A rather fiercely expected wind rose about while Song Iran entertained the guards in the front hall. Gazing forth at 5 large fiery spirits within the air, Xianxia conjectured that they had evil intentions behind their former actions and thus sent a thundercrack throughout the sky to force the spirits to kneel before him. Having mercy on the spirits for originally being animals and not knowing what true trouble that they caused in the past, Xianxia declared that they should each head to the western foothills for now until he finds a laborious job for them to perform when he eventually arrives. Following their immediate consent and departure, Madame Ma and Son gazed at Xianxia from the shadows in wonder as to why he was talking to himself in such a strange manner, explaining such an action as being incomprehensible to the former. They soon realized that Xianxia is well skilled in the art of fortune-telling. As Madame Sun thus urged her husband to find a shop for Xianxia to use for his fortune-telling, Song Iran declared shortly that he will tell some of his servants to rent a house neighboring the South Gate district of Morning Song for his future use. With the fortune-telling house thus Being opened after a short while, Xianxia waited patiently for over 4 months before finally attaining his first customer, a woodcutter by the name of Lu Qian. Unfortunately for Xia, however, Lu was known for his fierceness and brutality. After declaring that if the former's divination was incorrect, he would close down his shop, and if he was correct, he will reward him with 20 ounces of copper. Xianxia gave the former this prophecy: if you are to head south, you will find a man under a willow tree that will give you 120 coppers, 4 dishes of fresh cake, and 2 cups of wine. Even though Lu Qian stated his prediction as being far from accurate, he ventured south as told, thus appearing before an old man under a large willow tree as previously stated. After effectively receiving 100 coppers from the old man following the purchase of his well-fine firewood, Lu was offered wine and refreshments immediately. Once Lu had realized that the wine bowl filled exactly 2 cups to the very brim, he sat in astonishment at such precise accuracy. Upon his receiving of 20 coppers in addition due to the old man's gracious mood, Lu Qian ran back to the South Gate district stating that a celestial being was indeed present. Being far too astonished and exited over Xianxia's celestial accuracy to pay him any money, Lu Qian decided to grab hold of a neighboring Yamen business manager and force him to have his fortune foretold. Instead, as the former told this man he will pay if Xianxia's prophecy proved false, the manager had little choice but to go along with such a deal. With precise accuracy in his future prediction as well, Xianxia's fortune-telling shop soared in popularity throughout the capital in rather quick pace. Following the passage of 6 months, Xianxia's name soared throughout the region, attracting many foreigners from far and wide to experience his grand insight. As Jade, the lute spectre under Empress Nuwa, bade farewell to Daji one morning, she heard many great noises beneath her while soaring through the skies on her spectral cloud. Realizing that the area beneath her was a fortune-telling center by the great clamor around her, she transformed into an exceedingly beautiful woman. Before moving swiftly through the crowds in order to attain her own prediction, allowing for her fortune to be immediately read before all others. After seeing that she was indeed a specter despite her appearance, Xianxia grabbed hold of her palm and held on tightly for an excruciating period of time. Crying in discomfort at Zhang's action, more people gathered around ordering Zhang to stop his action, for further trouble will result. Not letting this chance dare slip away from his grasp, Xianxia seized the moment to crack her skull with his ink slab in one vile thrust while still holding onto her palm lest her true specter form could escape. As Prime Minister Baigon attained full word of this, Xianxia appeared shortly before the former, still holding the visibly dead woman's palm, while exclaiming his full reasoning behind such an action. Leaving the southern Gate district with Xianxia lest a great riot was to ensue, they both headed to the palace gates while the former presented himself before King Zhou at the Star Peking mansion to explain the situation. With Xianxia thus being sent before the king, he kneeled with deep respect while declaring to the former that he could essentially prove that this woman is indeed a specter if she is burned in a fierce fire for over 4 hours with charms stamped on her breasts and back. As such an action was fully performed, Baigon and King Zhou sat in utter astonishment at Xianxia's most extraordinary potential. Chapter 17, The Serpent Pit. This chapter is titled The Serpent Pit. As everyone present gazed at Jade's ability to withstand the fierce fire without the slightest burn on her body, Xianxia unleashed divine fire from his mouth by tempering both his vital energies and spirit into breath, telling Baigon and King Zhou to temporarily head inside. Lest they are harmed, Xianxia summoned forth a large thunderbolt to completely destroy Jade, thus leaving her as nothing more than a large loot on the ground. Daji, who saw her sister meet such a disastrous end, suggested to the king that Xia should be appointed to a high position while still harboring evil intentions to kill the former in one way or the other to attain revenge. After thus being appointed as junior minister and director of the Imperial Observatory, Zhang Xia celebrated for several days with Song Yiren and other relatives in congratulations, while meanwhile placing the attained loot in a position in which it had free access to the spiritual essences of heaven, earth, the sun, and the moon. Daji could effectively revive Jade after around 5 years of time. As Daji began to sing and dance in King Zhou's entertainment one day within the star picking Belvedere, the former noticed 70 individual maids who only shed tears in silence instead of applauding her beautiful performance. Realizing shortly that these maidens originally served under Queen Jiang, Daji suggested to keep them contained temporarily within the court prison while she supervises the construction of a large pit 240 feet in circumference and 50 in depth that is to be full of countless lethal snakes collected from each potential household within the capital. Once King Zhou fully unleashed this decree, people from every corner rushed about to find as many serpents as possible, even to the extent of heading to countries beyond Morning Song just to meet the king's demand lest they received punishment in any form. As Supreme Minister Zhao Gu inspected as to why people ran about with baskets in their hands all day long, without any successful information attained, the former discussed this issue with other high-ranking ministers in order to devise a way to uncover the reason. After attaining full consent on his plan, Yellow Flying Tiger approached the chief of guards and offered him a grand reward if he uncovers the truth from His Majesty, with the pit being essentially filled completely with snakes. Following the passage of 5 days, Daji told the king that the maidens should be stripped completely before being thrown alive into the pit to be devoured. With King Zhou's immediate consent for the maidens to be thrown into the pit shortly. That day, Zhao Gu attained word of the former's atrocity by the chief of guards. Afterwards, being stunned with horror and anger at such an outrageous decree, Zhao Gu presented himself before the king immediately, yelling at the king for his behavior with full words of devotion in the name of the dynasty. Zhao Gu was soon ordered to be thrown into the snake pit in addition for his insolence. Not allowing for such a shameful death to be his end, Zhao Gu smashed his head into the ground instead as an act of suicide. As the maidens were thus shortly thrown into the pit without a moment of hesitation, King Zhou patted Daji on the back in praise of her ingenious methods of torture. After Daji had suggested a meat forest to be constructed to the left of the snake pit that possessed thick branches hung with slices of meat all around as a creative punishment game to future disobeying ministers, she additionally suggested the wine pool, an exceedingly deep pit with wine to drink from for the same joyful purpose of the former. Upon the consent of such strange torture devices, Daji added in later to King Zhou that both the eunuchs and the palace maids should physically wrestle each other for a set period of time. Whoever seemed the weaker would have their bodies thrown within the meat forest after being beaten to death by golden hammers. Following King Zhou's consent, this became his favored form of entertainment from that point onwards. The true reason behind why Daji suggested such an outrageous method of torture, however, was to secretly feast on the blood and flesh of the deceased within the meat forest while in her fox sprite state throughout each night. Sitting down one day and remembering the humiliation she felt at the death of her sister, Daji drew a magnificent building complex on a sheet of paper and brought it before King Zhou at the star-picking Belvedere as a chance to attain her long-awaited revenge, telling the former that this building, newly dubbed as the Happy Terrace, should possess jeweled halls and towers and stand 49 feet high. She exclaimed that it will be the perfect manifestation of his dignity and prestige as ruler of the Shang Dynasty, resembling jade as beautifully articulated as a heavenly palace. Celestial beings would be bound to appear for feasts and kneel in respect before King Zhou's magnificent glory. Due to additionally adding the appearance of celestial beings within this terrace, Daji could effectively convince the king that Xianxia is the only present official within the kingdom that would able to perform such an unrealistic task. Following the king's consent and the order for Xianxia to appear before him, immediately Jiang realized through divination that he was destined to meet one form of disaster shortly. Knowing that he most likely could never attain any chance to repay Prime Minister Baigon's kindness within the future, he appeared before the latter quickly and handed him a set of instructions lest the Prime Minister were to meet some form of calamity at a later point. As Xianxia thus appeared before King Zhou and was handed the project's constructional report, he thought to himself how to effectively put reformation into the king's thinking and excuse such a project with full rationality. Chapter 18, Flight from Morning Song. This chapter is titled Flight from Morning Song. As King Zhou asked Zhang Xia his thoughts on the project, the latter stated that it will take around 35 years to produce considering the current labor with the people and the additional lack within the national treasury. Unfortunately, however, Xianxia foolishly went too far with his words by additionally stating the king's deluded qualities and was thus ordered for an immediate execution without even considering his former reasoning. Running for his life lest he were caught by King Zhou's guards, Xianxia soon approached the Nine-Dragon Bridge and jumped into the river beneath after confirming to everyone around him that it will be his act of suicide. Gazing into the water and not noticing his body or any movement at that, the guards were rather confused but reported the case to the king nonetheless. Little did anyone truly understand that Xianxia mounted an underwater cloud and flew away in reality, being fully resolved to search the waters afterwards lest Xia was playing any form of trickery. The guards gazed continuously at the waters beneath the Nine-Dragon Bridge before having their reasoning checked by Yangren, as Daji suggested afterwards to King Zhou that Chonghohu was the best choice for the Happy Terraces production. The latter ordered the secretariat to head immediately to Hohu's dukedom. Being stopped by Yangren along the way, Yangren was shortly informed of the Happy Terrace and thus headed immediately to the star-picking mansion to discuss the current circumstances with King Zhou. As Yangren placed forth his suggestions in a manner that upset the king as usual, the latter ordered for Yang Ren's eyes to be gouged out as punishment. Once the former sat in agony and disgust as such a cruel action was performed for little reason. Superior man, virtue of the pure void on Mount Green Peak, heard his cries of pain and ordered his genie to take action with quick pace. As such an action was effectively carried out with a grand wind sandstorm, the unconscious Yangren was shortly placed before the feet of pure void, placing 2 celestial elixirs into Yang's eye sockets and blowing celestial breath into his face. Pure void immediately awoke the former, now in possession of 2 small hands that protruded from his sockets with 1 eye in each palm. Yangren vowed to serve eternally under his new master upon the hearing of the latter's kindness. Meanwhile, Chonghohu had begun the construction of the Happy Terrace that not only forced thousands into exceedingly deep labor but additionally killed many out of exhaustion and turmoil. Returning to his original residence shortly, Xianxia approached Madame Ma and explained his desire to head quickly to the western foothills and attain the position of prime minister as is his destiny, for if she were to stay by his side, she would enjoy endless honor and great fame, but Madame Ma unfortunately declined such an offer due to her lack of confidence in the former, and thinking of him as no more than an unrealistic failure who simply had luck in the past. After a note of divorce was officially created so that both could part their ways. Justifiably, Xianxia was invited by Song Erin to have one final farewell drink in the name of their eternal friendship. Parting from his old friend with tears flowing from his eyes, Xianxia rode onwards throughout the countryside, before coming upon several hundred refugees stationed within Linton Pass. Unfortunately, however, all refugees present intended on voyaging through the 5 passes but were firmly held off by the garrison commander known as Zhang Feng. With due confidence and reassurement to the people, Xianxia personally went forth to discuss the current circumstances with the commander. Unfortunately, however, Zhang Feng strongly declined Xianxia's offer to allow the people passage due to his firmness in upholding the law and will decreed by the king. Xianxia thus had little choice but to inform the people of the commander's words while telling them set instructions. At dusk, you are to have your eyes firmly closed. A fierce sound of wind will rush about, but at no account should you open your eyes unless you wish to fall to your death. Kowtowing to Mountain Kunlun while reciting many incantations, every refugee was lifted throughout the air by a fierce wind and soon placed before the golden chicken range, which was beyond the capital's 5 passes. After expressing their deep gratitude towards Xianxia, each individual stationed themselves thereon within Phoenix City to live out their days in well-deserved peace. As Bo Yi Kao sat discussing current affairs with San Yisheng, the former declared his clear resolve to head to Morning Song immediately in order to prove the faith and love he possesses towards his father by freeing him from his chains as previously ordained. Even with San Yisheng's suggestions not to, such words meant nothing compared to the pain that Bo Yi Kao felt within his heart, and he thus made preparations for his departure. Chapter 19, Gifts to the King. This chapter is titled Gifts to the King. Holding San Yisheng's words very dearly, Bo Yi Kao still believed that his actions would be for the best and thus informed his younger brother, GFA, of his ascension as the temporarily ruler of the western foothills until he returns from the capital after around 2 or 3 months. Thus selecting an auspicious day for his departure, Bo Yi Kao soon departed to Morning Song following his final toast of farewell to the civil and military officials at the Chongting Pavilion. Arriving before Morning Song in short time without much effort sacrificed, Bo Yi Kao stationed himself within an official hostel before leaving to the palace gate in mourning robes the following day. Not daring to enter through the gates with his memorial lest his aura of dutifulness and loyalty to the king swayed in any way, Bo Yi Kao was approached by none other than Prime Minister Bygone one day. Kowtowing before the latter due to his past kindness, Bo Yi Kao shortly told him the tributes that he shall present to the king, the 7 fragrance carriage, which was solely used by Emperor Shen Yuan, a sobriety carpet, a white-faced monkey, and 10 maidens of exceeded beauty. Realizing that Bo Yi Kao simply had filial intentions backing his resolve, Bygone immediately informed the king of the former's desire for audience. Kneeling with unparalleled respect before King Zhou while elaborating the reason for his appearance, the latter was deeply touched by his filial piety and courtesy and thus ordered for him to stand on his feet. As Daji gazed at Bo Yi Kao with lust over his handsomeness, she informed the king of the boy's great reputation in the art of music. being promised by King Zhou that if his skills were to exceed his expectations he will allow both him and his father to leave the capital with open arms. The latter reluctantly accepted such a challenge. Playing the zither with keen ability and prowess, Daji and King Zhou alike were very pleased and thus ordered a banquet at the Star Picking Mansion in his honor. Gazing at Bo Yi Kao from across the table during their banquet, Daji lusted to have sex with him no matter what it would take. Thus desiring the former over a deluded old man like King Zhou, Daji told the king that Bo Yi Kao should stay at the capital not only to teach her lessons with the zither, but to additionally spread such beautiful music throughout the whole capital for the benefit of everyone. Following King Zhou's consent, Daji brought forth many glasses of fine wine for the former as an additional feast, until he was essentially intoxicated and put forth to his bed for rest. Now sitting alone with Bo Yi Kao and her own zither in hand, Daji was thoroughly told of each individual trait possessed within the beautiful instrument. However, she cared little about such. Her only desire in mind was to arouse Bo Yi Kao in any way possible, and many amorous smiles, glances, and sweetful words were thus performed. Realizing that her actions were meaningless, as the former never even paid any attention to them, Daji invited Bo Yi Kao to sit by her side at the honor of being her tutor during a newly prepared feast. Being reluctant to preserve his propriety and righteousness than to sit by the queen's side due to his lowly position, Daji had little choice but to continue the zither lessons instead. During their continued lessons together, Daji declared that if she could sit on his lap, she could effectively make rapid progress as he holds her hand while guiding through the strings. Unfortunately, however, Bo Yi Kao irrationally yelled at the former, stating that such actions would be great shame to the title of queen, and thus declined immediately, dismissing him to his quarters. Daji informed King Zhou the following morning in her rage that Kao did little more than seduce her the former night rather than assist with the zither. Being approached the following morning by King Zhou and Daji, Bo Yi Kao was reprimanded for his slow tutoring performance the night before, and was thus ordered to play another tune to redeem himself. After playing his zither with keen ability, he placed forth his white-faced monkey at Daji's request, thus enchanting all around with its superb music and synchronization. However, this monkey's music was used to bring out any neighboring evil spirit to the forefront. As Daji's true form came forth in her enchantment, the monkey seized this chance to lunge forthward and attack her, falling to the ground dead by a swift blow of King Zhou's hand. Bo Yi Kao would be arrested but freed after convincing the former that it was nothing more than an undomesticated animal of little intelligence, and it most definitely didn't have the capability of plotting to hurt Daji, thus being ordered by the king to play one more tune with his zither to see if he truly reflects loyalty and sincerity. Bo Yi Kao began playing his instrument with many defiant words as a full expression of his hatred towards those who defy integrity and righteousness, solely intending to get back at Daji for her unethical manner previously, and preserving his loyalty to the king in every way. Bo Yi Kao attached a long blade to his zither and threw it directly at Daji's face, in an attempt to put an end to her life even if it cost his own. Fortunately for Daji, however, she managed to leap out of the way while tumbling to the ground in shock. As King Zhou roared with rage at such an unexpected action, he ordered the guards to throw Bo Yi Kao into the snake pit as punishment. Begging the king to do what she wished with him, Daji ordered the executioners to nail Bo Yi Kao's hands and feet to a board while his flesh was cut from his body piece by piece. Swearing at Daji up until his last dying breath, it would soon be decided that His flesh will be made into small cakes and sent to Ji Chang to determine if he is worthy to be freed. If he eats the cakes, he is ordinary and should thus be freed. But if Ji Chang refuses to eat them out of personal views, he is to be executed as to destroy any potential trouble in the future. Chapter 20, San Yixing bribes the corrupt courtiers. This chapter is titled San Yixing bribes the corrupt courtiers. Being imprisoned within Yoli for 7 years of time, Ji Chang studied the theory of the 8 diagrams throughout each passing moment while writing a book known as the Book of Changes during his confinement. While sitting in his studies and performing divination with gold coins one day, believing that something unfortunate has taken place in his family, Ji Chang soon realized that his son, Bo Kao, had met a cruel and unfortunate death. Being approached shortly by a palace messenger and offered 3 large cakes of deer flesh as a token of King Zhou's respect for the former, Ji Chang happily accepted the cakes and immediately ate all 3 in his unparalleled show of gratitude. Knowing fully that he had just devoured the flesh of his precious son, Ji Chang sat on the ground and began weeping profusely over what little choice he possessed during the situation. As King Zhou and Fei Zhong were fiercely clashing against each other during a game of chess, the messenger soon arrived and informed the king of Ji Chang's resolution, deciding that Ji Chang should be excused from Yoli. After hearing his report, Fei Zhong swiftly retorted by stating that if Ji Chang were to return to his homeland at the current time, he would most likely be influenced strongly not only by the bloodlustful people of the western foothills due to Bo Kao's death, but the southern and northern dukes in addition, because of the strong potential they emanate. Seeing that it would be a more rational resolution to keep Ji Chang detained, no matter how loyal he may seem. From the outside, King Zhou consented to the former's suggestion. As the entourage under Bo Kao were soon informed by loyal ministers of their master's death, they fled through the night until arriving within Phoenix City to express their woes before GFA. Bursting into many tears at the hearing of his elder brother's death, Nangong cried from among the generals present, saying that it is essential at all costs to deploy an army against the capital in order to wipe out King Zhou and effectively replace him with a true ruler. Everyone present within the court ground their teeth in rage and glared with great hatred as they agreed with Nangong to destroy the tyrant at all costs possible, with San Yixing moving forward and reprimanding all around for their lack of control. The former firmly stated that if such an action were put into motion and reported to the capital, all of Ji Chang's years of loyal service and reputation would be nothing more than roadside chaff. With these words, San Yixing additionally stated that 2 messengers should be sent with gold, jade, and other valuable items from their dukedom to the residence of Fei Zhong and Yuhan to attain potential support in the future and will more than likely result in Ji Chang's well-deserved exclusion. After additional letters are also to be sent in secret to these 2 ministers, the soldiers of the western foothills shall be drilled day and night as to prepare for a chance later on to strike at the capital with the other dukes. With 2 generals Tai Dian and Han Yao effectively chosen for this task, they were ordered to take the guise of merchants traveling to the capital and offering to the suffering people, not daring to stay at a government hostel following their arrival at the capital lest they were found out. The 2 generals approached their respective supreme ministers' lodgings that night. As Taidian kneeled before Fei Zhong in great respect, the former placed before him a letter from Supreme Minister San Yixing stating that he will receive over 10,000 taels of silver and other valuable gifts if he is to free Ji Chang as an expression of his inner virtue and compassion, ensuring Tai Dian that he will do his utmost to set Ji Chang free at all costs, the latter left shortly, with the same results as his ally general, experiencing 2 successive wins. Within chess against both Fei Zhong and Yuhun a few days later, King Zhou prepared a feast for the 3 of them as celebration, beginning a discussion of Ji Chang. Fei Zhong declared that he had recently sent a few trustworthy men to Yoli district with the sole purpose of analyzing Ji Chang's current motives. Following the death of Bo Yi Kaofer, this would effectively prove if he still harbored his supposed loyalty even after the conjectured knowing of his son's death. Hearing reports from these men that Ji Chang was burning incense at every moment in the insurance of King Zhou's health and never uttered a single word of defiance to the current situation, Fei Zhong knew wholly that the former was indeed not a threat to the capital and was a minister of the highest loyalty. As King Zhou heard such a report from Fei Zhong, he additionally asked Yuhun for his take on the situation. With research that reciprocated Fei Zhong's analyzation on Ji Chang, Yuhun stated that if Ji Chang were effectively freed, he could be appointed into the position of prince and used to subdue the rebelling northern and southern Grand Dukes through words due to the natural respect that they possess towards the former, and thus may even be encouraged to stop their rebellion. The fact that Ji Chang is to be freed simply out of consideration, his resolve to uphold the kindness bestowed upon him by the king would naturally increase and thus strengthen such an outcome. King Zhou thus issued a decree that stated Ji Chang's essential pardon and his freedom from confinement. As the ministers all around clapped their hands in joy upon the hearing of Ji Chang's well-deserved attainment of freedom, a palace messenger immediately set out for Yoli district with written decree in hand. Sitting inside his inner chambers with continued detriment over the death of his unfortunate son, Ji Chang made a divination with golden coins following a sudden ominous windstorm. After realizing that King Zhou will pardon him that day, the palace messenger arrived shortly and officially stated the king's decree. Packing his belongings with both joy and sorrow, the people of Yoli crowded before him and offered what they could in return for the former's immense kindness in the past. As they escorted the Duke some distance from Yoli district, every individual present gave their final farewells in tears. Arriving before high-ranking ministers such as Bygone and Yellow Flying Tiger at the palace gates, Ji Chang expressed his immense gratitude at their kindness for freeing him from his extended confinement. Being in a state of great happiness in addition, an order was soon put forth that stated Ji Chang's presence before King Zhou. Dressing in convictual garb as he presented himself before the king, Ji Chang kneeled in respect and stated his many vows of gratitude. Being thus authorized to undertake military operations as chief of all dukes and appointed as overseeing prince, King Zhou additionally placed forth a banquet at the Dragon Virtue court in his honor, with each minister smiling with delight at such good fortune. For Ji Chang, now known as Prince, when the latter paraded for 2 days throughout the capital's streets in a demonstration of his glory. Late into the afternoon during his second day of parade, Ji Chang was approached by Prince Yellow Flying Tiger and consented to the former's proposal of a personal drink at his residence, personally sitting down and accompanying Ji Chang with many drinks. Yellow Flying Tiger firmly told him that he is in need of ceasing his current parading and should leave as quickly as possible, lest any other unpredictable occurrence runs about in such a colossally torn capital like morning song. Feeling as if he had been completely awoken to reality, Prince when calmly asked the former how he is get through the 5 passes, handing him many military tallies and suggesting that he guises himself as a royal patrolman to easily make his way through the passes. Yellow Flying Tiger gave one final bow to Prince when before being dismissed. That same evening, Yellow Flying Tiger ordered 2 of his generals Long Huan and Wu Yin to open the west gate of the capital and secretly escort Ji Chang from within.